start going. I'm sure we're recording now, but let's see. About 3:50. Okay. All right, guys. So I got asked a couple weeks ago to do a video for each boss in Ice Crown Citadel. And it's something I've been meaning to do, how to heal it. So we're gonna watch one of my old videos. Hopefully, this is an old video of a full run. I don't know if I have one saved. This does not look like a full run. Let me go find a full run. If I can find one here. What we're gonna do is watch. We're gonna watch a full run. What was this? Might be. This is not it. We might just use today's run to kind of go over and show you guys exactly what I mean. I can't believe I don't have a full run in here. But we'll use today's run. We'll just go ahead and use this. We'll just mute the audio. And we'll skip to Lord. Once it comes in here. Settings, quality. There we go. Okay, so the first boss in Ice Crown Citadel, obviously, being Lord Marigar. So let's go ahead and get to this joke of a boss. Okay, so Lord Marigar, as you can see here, I'm going to kind of walk you guys through what I'm doing here. As you guys can see, my cursor's right here. What I'm going through is, first of all, I want to say this about almost every single boss in Ice Crown Citadel. As a resto druid, you're going to want to pre-hot. And what I mean by pre-hotting is getting rejuvenation out there and set up before the boss pull. Now, it's also key that when you're rejuvening, try to get about, I'd say usually about 10 rejuves out, and then you're going to want to drink. If there's a 10-second countdown, you should probably stop at about, before they pull the boss, you want to stop somewhere around 5 seconds. So you want to be kind of rejuvening. It's kind of a guessing game, just kind of rejuvening. If you don't have a countdown, if your guild just pulls, they should have a countdown. It makes it a lot easier for people to pre-pot and things like that. But as a resto druid, you're gonna want to pre-hot the raid with your rejuvenation, sometimes even wild growth. So when you do those things, you're gonna be automatically, you've already got hots out before the boss fight even begins. It's always a good idea to do that, especially I like to regrowth and on fights where, like Marigar here, where it's a little bit more direct healing. I'm gonna regrowth my tanks, ideally put rejuve on them. If I do get a clear casting proc, I will start casting Life Bloom on them. And then I'm giving myself that extra 5 seconds so I can sit down and drink before the boss pull. That way I'm back to full mana. So that's always key when pulling any boss in Ice Crown Citadel. But with Marigar being a more direct fight, you're going to see how you're going to want to keep your tanks kind of focused. But you're also going to want to spread rejuve in there as well. Marigar is a more direct healing fight. So it is essential to have the direct heals on both the tanks, whatever one seems to be tanking, or if you have two tanks in front, one taking the cleave as well. However your guild does it, you're going to want to keep the tanks healed. That's going to be your main priority because there's not going to be a whole lot of else to do. But when you can watch your cooldown timers, right here is my DBM cooldown timers, and you can see Bone Spike or Bone Storm is coming out, then you want to start swapping back over to the Rejuve Wild Growth and start using that instead. Okay, so we're going to see me working on the tanks here. Working on one of our DPS is taking a lot of damage. There's me working on the tank again. As you can see here now, the bone spikes are out. I'm working on bone spikes, making sure all my bone spikes are hotted up, that they're fully healed. Or at least have a hot rolling on them. The other thing about healing is you want to rely on your other healers too. In order to be a really good healer, you also have to be surrounded by some good healers. You just can't carry complete garbage. Some people should know what they're doing. As you can see now, Bone Storm's out, or when Bone Storm was out, I was doing a little bit more direct healing because there's a lot of big chunks of damage. But ideally, when Bone Storm is out, you want to be doing more wild growthing. As you can see now, I'll start Rejuve spamming here. You're going to see me putting Rejuve on everybody. I about died there, so I want to heal myself. But Rejuve spamming, here I go again, making sure my spikes are up. And yeah, it's just a matter of, this fight has to do with more of, it's a lot of spiky direct damage. This fight really favors Resto Shamans, really favors Holy Paladins. So Druids, our job is to really try to help out with the Bone Storm and the Bone Spikes. That's where our two main worries is. Of course, keeping the tanks hotted, and if healers, the whole raid's taking a lot of damage. You want to try to help do a lot of direct healing. Rejuves aren't really going to cut it here unless they're already hit with a rejuve, and you can go straight into that nourish. So let's go ahead. I think that's everything with Marigar, really. So we're going to go ahead and go up to the Deathwhisper fight here. I think we actually wiped the first time, so let's go to the one that we didn't wipe on. We're getting ready to pull here. Okay, Lady Deathwhisper, again, is one of those fights where you definitely want to pre-hot. But it's also one of those fights where pre-hotting may not always work. I want to say this also, it depends how your guild strategy is of what you're going to do. Pre-hotting is always good for almost every boss in the game. That won't change. But our strategy differs a little bit from other guilds. Some guilds will spread out right in the beginning. Our guild stacks about 20 feet behind her, 25 foot behind her at the beginning there, phase 1. That way we bring the adds in and we nuke them all down. But after phase 1 is going to be a lot of nothing to heal, really, just a lot of AoE damage when the Frostbolt goes out and when Death and Decay comes down, so you definitely want to have your Wild Growth ready for that. But other than that, it's really spiky damage until she's out. And as we see she's coming out, you're going to see me do a lot more Wild Growth, Rejuve spam here. I'm going to get the Mage up with Rebirth. But I'm doing a lot of wild growth rejuve spam here. I'm not really worried about the tanks so much at this point in time, because really the shamans and the holy paladin should be covering that. I am going to put a regrowth on the tank here. But yeah, it's just a lot more me getting my hots out. Just did a Swiftman there, or Nourish there, excuse me, to get that druid up. That's why it's important to have these hots rolling. That way, if somebody does need that big chunk, you can go straight to that Nourish, and they're going to get that bonus effect because they already have a hot on them. But phase 2 here is really just knowing when to just rejuve Wild Growth. Sometimes as a resto druid, I don't want to say there's always a rotation, but you really do have to be careful in saying that there is a specific rotation that you have to use every single time. Fights are going to differ. Things happen differently in a fight. There's times you might have to break off. You might have to do a lot more direct healing than we normally would have. So yeah, and I also want to put this in there too. Whenever you're going to come under an effect, whenever you have an ad targeted on you, whenever you're even when you're in an ice block, I can't stress this enough, but I don't see a lot of druids using their bark skin. Anytime you know there's going to be guaranteed damage coming in that you can suppress or mitigate, bark skin. It's on a 1 minute cooldown. It's really easy to use. There's no reason why you shouldn't be using it. Yeah, so as you can see, we got through Lady Deathwhisper. I'm not even going to go over Gunship. If you don't, Gunship's ridiculous. I pretty much AFK'd this entire fight anyways. Now, Deathbringer Sarfang is interesting because you're going to want to do... This fight is direct healing. Literally direct healing is the only way to describe this fight. It really is direct healing. So, I know I talked about the Tier 9 spec, and I'm going to try to make a video on that tonight as well. But the Tier 9 spec would really be good here. Or the Tier 9 gear. But this spec is going to require you to do a lot of direct healing. Whenever you see your Blood Boil, I think it's Blood Nova that is cast, or Boiling Blood, there we go, and Blood Nova, yeah, Blood Nova. You're going to see me hot the Blood Novas up, the Rogue is currently hotted, the Ret and the Feral are all hotted up. As soon as you see those debuffs go out, hot those people up immediately. Other than that, you're going to keep Wild Growth and Rejuve. Just whoever doesn't have the Mark of the Fallen Champion is where you're going to be casting your Regrowth and Rejuve and keeping it refreshed. As you can see, I'm not really healing the other tank, but now that he's about to take over, I go ahead and refresh Regrowth and Rejuvenation on him. Then I'm going to spam a little bit of Nourish on him, try to make sure he's getting up. Because really, there's nothing to heal here. And really, pre-hotting here, there's marks out. I'm healing the marks. I'm re-hotting all the marks. As you can see, Fallen Champion's about to come off, so the DK is about ready to take over. I'm making sure he's hotted up. It's really guessing a lot of the time where the damage is going to be. As you can see, the marks out again. I'm hotting the marks, making sure they're healed up, putting a little Wild Growth out there, healing up the tank, because there's really nothing to heal here as a Resto Druid. Now, maybe your guild has a certain setup where you take the first mark of the Fallen Champion, this healer does, and the second mark This healer is going to heal that that's his target to heal, third healer, and so forth and so on. However your guild works it, it's going to be a little bit different. But you really don't need to pre-hot. This is one of the fights where I should say you really don't need to pre-hot whatsoever. This is really a fight about just whoever has a debuff, heal them. Because other than that, there shouldn't be any real damage going out. Unless somebody's standing next to somebody with a debuff and they're also taking damage. But really, it should only be the people with the debuff. You should never get hit by beasts. I don't know why some of these guys get hit by beasts, but that fight's pretty straightforward. Just a lot of nourish, regrowth, just healing marks. Anybody marked with a debuff. Here we are up to, I think we're on Rot Face now. Are we? No, we're on Fester. Why am I so far zoomed in? Oh, no. We're on a mini-boss. Never mind. Alright, we're getting ready to pull Rot Face. Here's another fight where pre-hotting... I will pre-hot this. This fight really could go either way with pre-hotting. Pre-hotting here can work sometimes. Other times it doesn't work. It all depends. Because the damage is always going to be RNG. You may get a slime puddle out that touches no one. You may get a slime puddle out that 6 people are standing in. You know, it all just depends. You know, the slime spray may come out. It all depends. This fight, again, more direct healing is needed here. You're going to see more regrowths, more... You're still going to see rejuvenation, wild growth will still be bread and butter, but you're going to want to cast a lot of more regrowths and wild growths and rejuves here as well. Or excuse me, you're going to want to cast more direct healing while keeping up with your wild growths and rejuves, but direct healing is going to be basically priority over your hots. And this fight is really just really RNG because there's a lot of stuff going on. Not a lot of damage that you can kind of predict even where it's going to land because you don't know who he's going to target for the slime spray. You don't know where the ooze from the walls is going to come out until a couple seconds before it does come out. You don't know where the mutated infection is going to come from or who it's going to land on. You don't know who's going to get vile gas. So a lot of RNG in this fight that you kind of have to be prepared for. I think that's why it plays into more of a direct healing fight because a lot of the damage is just really RNG. It's just a matter of getting there and getting your hots on. I probably should have stopped that heal before I casted it, but alright, so moving on. Now Fester Gut, and the reason I don't think I pre-hotted for this. Which is why I got like murdered. But you're going to in fights like Fester Gut, you're going to want to pre-hot the fight because there's going to be a consistent damage, especially after he does after the orange blight comes out. There's going to be a consistent damage tick on the raid. Now, once everybody gets about 2 stacks of the inoculation, you're going to want to swap to healing the tank because at that point the raid really isn't taking any damage whatsoever other than the Malables that he's occasionally throwing out. The raid or somebody who doesn't have any inoculation stacks at all would be the only people besides the tank taking damage. So this really comes down to when Inhaled Blight comes out. When the orange stuff basically fills the room, that's your bread and butter. You're going to want to pre-hot. As I said, I did not pre-hot at the beginning here. Another good thing is GTS. You're going to want to know when to bust GTS. When there's heavy AoE out, when the raid is taking heavy AoE, I'm usually going to bust GTS. Quite often. Now, I know there's some times where you could get away with, and people say, well, Funky, you can use it right at the beginning of the fight, the way you have it later. You can use it twice, but you really want to be able to maximize your GTS effect. You want to do it during times of huge AoE. Now, a fight like BQL, where the AoE is consistently throughout the fight, you can burn GTS twice. Or you could save it for heroism. The choice is yours. Usually I can get away with burning it twice. Sometimes I can't, and I know it. If I know the raid DPS is really low, I could probably burn it twice in that fight. If I know we're doing pretty good DPS, I know I'm only going to get off once during the fight, and I'd rather it be during heroism. So yeah, Fester got, like I said, just another fight where you really have to just the fight differs. It'll go from an AOE fight at the beginning, and then the inoculation comes out, and people start getting inoculated, and then when the fight transitions and everyone has stacks of inoculation, it really goes into a more direct healing fight, and then it'll switch back to an AOE. So you really have to. It's kind of a flip flop, back and forth kind of thing. So something to pay attention for, something to keep an eye out for. Let's go ahead and get Professor. I think we wiped the first time on Professor, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if that's true. Yep. No, that was the kill. I think I died on Professor. No. What fight did I die on? I can't remember. I died on a fight. I was a total noob on something today, and I can't remember what it was. I think it might have been BQL. I don't know. But, Professor Putricide. Here's another fight where AoE. Your job here, because there's so much spiky damage going out, you're not going to be able to help cover it all. Now, if you know somebody, if I know that I could see somebody standing away out in left field and I'm near them, and I know they need a heal right now, you need to cast that heal on them. You need to swap to direct healing. I think I died. I think I eat malleable goo to the face. I think that's what happened. I know I eat a malleable here. But anyways, yeah, because I was like, I think I crush healing and then I take a malleable to the face, like a pro boss. But the only time you really need to pull off and direct heal in this fight is when you have the gaseous bloat, or you're targeted with the green ooze. Like you can see here, I'm targeted. Nothing much I could really do. They gotta keep me healed. I could still add hots to myself, which I'm doing, putting life bloom on myself. Got a rejuve going. But this fight is strictly AoE. You're gonna want to use almost strictly your AoE heals. Cast life bloom when you can. When you get your oh goodness, clear casting procs, you're gonna want to use life bloom when you can. But really, this is bread and butter fight. This is rejuve, wild growth. Yep, there, I just ate it. This is rejuve and wild growth almost all the way. Yeah, I was about ready to beat the shit out of that priest too. So not much I can really add to this fight. I do want to say this though. Shadow Meld is still broken for the Alliance. A lot of people don't know that Shadow Meld is still broken. There's certain fights you can use it and reset your mana pot. Now, on AoE fights where there is AoE the entire time on Professor Putricide. The only time there is not an AoE is that transition from phase 2 to phase 3. When the A-bomb goes away, you do have time to pot and get it back off cooldown. But the problem with that is the fight is usually over before your mana pot is going to come back off cooldown. So you're going to pot, Shadow Meld, and then try to pot again if you really need mana at that point, because it is really a mana-intensive fight. Lots of AoE damage. This is AoE from basically the time that the A-bomb, somebody gets in the A-bomb until there's a little bit of a break, but as soon as he starts putting marks on the tanks, the AoE damage is going to come back out again. So almost consistently from beginning to end, this is an AoE fight. And we're going to come to Blood Princes. Princes is one of those goofy fights where it's about a half direct healing, half AoE healing. This is what I like to call like a mid-game pre-hot. I'm going to pre-hot the raid, but then I'm going to do a mid-raid pre-hot, which is meaning I'm going to be casting nothing but rejuve whatsoever, because I know that the shock vortex is coming from the boss, where we're all going to go flying. So I'm trying to pre-hot that. Specifically the melees, not so much the ranged. I'm going to focus on the melees. I probably will have some stuff on the ranged as well, but really want to try to focus on the melee. If not, if you just want to cast your rejuve in the ranged group, and then you want to just use wild growth for the melee, that's fine. Just make sure you time it up. Make sure you're keeping an eye on your DBM for when he's going to do his special ability, or when he's casting it. That way you're prepared if you need to hit that wild growth before everyone goes flying everywhere. Because if Joe Schmo, you got targeted or getting, you know, I'm gonna hit this rogue because I know he's in the melee group. I'm gonna hit this warrior or DK because I know they're in the melee group. But you don't do it before the shock vortex, and everyone goes flying, and you go to cast it while everyone's flying. You're likely only gonna hit that one person, which isn't gonna do you a whole lot of good. So you want to pre-cast that before it happens. But BQL is really an AoE direct healing. It just depends on what part of the fight, where everything is. Like right now, nobody's really taking any damage. I mean, there's not a whole lot to heal here. So when nobody's really taking damage, you're going to kind of switch to a more direct healing. But as you can tell, I'm pre-hotting here because I know there's going to be a lot of incoming damage. So I'm trying to get ready for that incoming damage that will be upcoming here. Like people are going to be flying. We're all going to be taking a lot of damage. So it's one of those weird fights where it kind of goes both ways. Let's go ahead and pull up BQL. Now BQL again is a very strict AoE healing fight. And what I mean by that, you're gonna keep hearing me say that is wild growth rejuve. A lot of it. The only time, there's rarely a time I'll pass off. As you can see, I already burnt my GTS in this fight once. I think I try to get it off twice, or I do. But the only reason I did that was because I know our DPS was lower. And I thought we had heroism, but I wasn't paying attention. I look up in the video, you can even hear me saying, "Oh damn it, we got 4 minutes left." I wasn't even paying attention. So we weren't gonna have heroism. So I actually did burn it correctly. Burn it right off the bat, and then I burned it again. Now people ask me, you know, Funky, is it really worth me spamming direct heals to get the GTS proc after I hit it? Yes. Especially on these huge AoE fights. And also, when your GTS is proc, you're gonna want to weird. You're also going to want to make sure every so often you're casting that wild growth out there. You're throwing a rejuve up. You want to keep those, because if all your rejuves fall off and you lose the buff up here, if you lose that buff from your idol, you're doing less healing. So make sure you keep that buffed. Just throw one rejuve out there. If you still got one ticking, that's, you know, you got time, then don't worry about it. But it really does help out a whole lot to have that trinket. But I really try to use it only with heroism. Now, normally how I use it is when heroism is thrown, I'm hitting GTS and I'm spamming regrowth. I know it's costing me more mana, but regrowth will be GCD capped. It puts a longer tick on the targets, which means more healing, which means less. I can hit them with a rejuve, which means even more healing later on. But they're going to have that long 24-second tick on. So that's what I use. Sometimes I will bust out and use a nourish depending on if there's a lot of people damaged or not. So it's really situational. But yeah, another bread and butter fight, AoE. What you're going to be doing now. I think we're going up to Valithria Dreamwalker. Yes, we are. Valithria, just heal the damn green dragon. I mean, it's not that hard. I'm not even going to go over that fight. Syndragosa, again, another AoE fight where you really just want to, this is not Cindy. You're definitely going to want to precast here. Again, this is AoE fight. I won't get into all the details with this one, but because it's just it's crazy. It all depends on who's unchained. If you have 4 out of your 7 healers, or however many healers, it all depends on how many healers you're rolling and whatnot. But if the only healers you have up that aren't unchained, like say my shaman and my disc, or my paladin, excuse me, are both unchained, I might be swapping off from the raid a little bit and making sure my tank's getting nourished and he's got plenty of hots rolling on him. Something to keep an eye on to see who is unchained for this fight. I won't go over all the specifics with this, but again, you can use Shadow Meld during when she's in the air. You can hit Shadow Meld and reset your pot, your mana potion. But you definitely should not have a mana issue on this fight at all, because when you have Unchained Magic, you won't be casting. So it'll give you, normally you're constantly casting, so you're talking 15 seconds or 25 seconds of no casting whatsoever. You're going to regen quite a bit of mana in that time. Shouldn't be a big deal. As you could tell, let's see. From the time I was unchained, let's go ahead and pull it up when I was unchained. Let me just see here. Okay, I'm unchained. I'm at 11k mana. Okay, I'm not casting. And this is for the full duration. I was at 11k mana. At 15 seconds, I'm now at 14k mana. Again, not casting anything here. I think we wipe on this one. I've regained 7k mana in that time that it took for me to Unchained. So really popping mana potions here and then trying to reset them shouldn't be that big of an issue, because at one point in time you should be getting Unchained. And like I said, you can, if you don't cast during that 25 seconds, you're talking 7k mana. It's a pretty good chunk of mana. So as you can see, I'm not really casting anything either right now because we just broke them out. So I'm back up to 22. I'm almost doubled my mana pool just from being Unchained and then doing air phase. So I do think we wiped that attempt, and we have to come back and do it again. Alright, so now we're up to Lich King. I think we wiped the first time on Lich King. Actually, I think we wiped twice. Okay, I really want to get to the phases. So phase 1, depending on what weapon you're using, here you really have the option of you can wear Trauma all the time, you can wear the Legendary all the time, or you could swap like I do. It really just depends. I start off with the Legendary. That way I can help cover infests with my bubbles. And then in phase 1.5, I will swap to Trauma. And I'm using my GTS on the ledge phases only. I'm not proccing it beforehand. It would kind of just be a loss of healing. So I'm waiting to use my GTS until the ledge phases. You'll see me GTS Tranquility. I think I already did. No, it come off cooldown now. But you're really going to want to use, on ledge phases, strictly pretty much AoE healing. And as in phase 1.5, phase 2.5, and Frostmourne. Definitely in Frostmourne, you're going to need a resto druid in there doing AoE healing. But phases 1, 2, and 3, when there is not the a ledge phase or there's not a Shadowmourne phase, you're going to be doing direct healing. So just be prepared. A lot of these fights are like that where you're going to need to swap between the two of them. So that's pretty much all I got to say about resto druids and how to heal on that, guys. Not a whole lot I can get in depth to. Just a lot of pre-hotting. I want to say that. Just a lot of pre-hotting. When you're casting your wild growth, always try to target a melee, because melee are usually stacked. So if you and I find myself doing it all the time on accident until I like pay attention. You wanna try to target your DPS with wild growth, because it's gonna maximize the targets it's gonna hit. If you cast it on that hunter who's standing over there by himself, you just wasted 5 other regrowths that could hit 5 other people. So very important to keep that in mind. Alright, I think that's all for this video, so I'm gonna stop it and we're gonna start a new video.